Okay, this is a very impromptu thing, but I saw this article here, and I'm just gonna. There's no production here. Let's just get into this. District 4 to host public safety town hall following string of shootings involving SAPD officers. So this is San Antonio, Texas, and this is the District 4 Councilwoman Adriana Rocha Garcia. I am concerned about these incidents. Following 5 police shootings in the past 2 weeks, this came out September 8th, so this came out today. District 4 Councilwoman Adriana Rocha Garcia plans to host a public safety town hall with SAPD Chief William McManus. The event will be 6 p.m. Okay, whatever. Resident, by the way, that's way out on the far west side. Residents are invited to the town hall to share their concerns, a little more about SAPD efforts to propose ideas to keep each other safe, a news release said. The increasing in officer-involved shooting is causing people to worry about the safety of our community and reevaluate how we keep each other safe. Garcia said. That's the councilwoman saying that. Reevaluating how we keep each other safe. Okay. Residents of San Antonio deserve to feel secure and protected in their communities. That's a fair statement, but yeah, that would go anywhere, right? The brave women and men. This is that flip around. The brave women and men, not men and women, as it traditionally would be put, because we're probably dealing with one of these progressive leftists going under the like they don't want to claim a side, right? So they go under like independent or nonpartisan, which is bull, because if you look at everything that they back, they're pretty much progressives. So the brave women and men who put their lives on the line each day are not the only ones responsible for the safety of our community. I guarantee the breakdown is mostly men and some women. I've seen some women officers out there, but the odds are you're going to be stopping them with dudes. We need to ensure they have the resources to adequately do their jobs just as much as our residents need resources to realize their full potential. What is that supposed to mean? In regards to what we're talking about, what is that supposed to mean? We need to ensure they have the resources to adequately do their jobs. That's the police officers, guaranteed, and guaranteed that they don't have the resources. I guarantee they don't, because most police, forces in large cities just don't. Why? Because most of them have had their budgets cut big time because of the whole George Floyd riot stuff. After that, then it was, hey, let's cut the, resources to all the cops and see how that goes for us. That's going really well, isn't it? Just as much as our residents need resources to realize their full potential. So this is we're talking about ice cream and you brought pizza into it. While they do go, can go hand in hand, we're not talking about pizza toppings. We're talking about flavors of ice cream. This is that nonsense of the people are more important than the resources for the people. I don't understand. Or they're just no. We're not talking about residents reaching their full potential unless you want to talk about residents becoming the Punisher or Judge Dredd out there. In that case, I'm all for it. Because what? Like, stay on topic, I'm concerned about these incidents that are becoming more frequent and putting officers in grave danger. Oh, now they're concerned because 5 officers were shot within 2 weeks. How many citizens have been shot in 2 weeks? How many law-abiding citizens have had to defend themselves against criminals and are then put on trial basically for having defended themselves? Yeah. We're worried about the cops now, even though we are reducing their budget over time. Let me give you some figures here. We're about, for the size of San Antonio, we're about 1,500 to 2,000 officers short of what it would take to barely cover what most other cities cover given the size of the cities that, like per officer per 1,000 citizens is like 1 to 1,000 versus like 2 to 1,000, something like that. We're about half the amount of officers we actually need to even attempt to pretend like we're going to do some proactive policing. What's proactive policing? That's all the things that people don't want done anymore because they think that it is more harmful to the criminals than it is to the law-abiding citizens that pay taxes. So we want to make sure that the criminals are not having their rights infringed on, even though they're contributing nothing to society. Meanwhile, the citizens, if you take any kind of action to protect yourself, you're going to be in trouble. Yes, even in Texas. So it's not just a progressive West Coast or East Coast thing. Mostly West Coast. So let's see here. I know of two councilmen, I'm going to say councilmen because that's normal, that actively are uninterested in hiring more police officers. So two of them, the D5 and D2 councilmen. D2 specifically wants nothing to do with more police officers. That's the Jalen McKee, and I think he calls himself Rodriguez too, whatever. I don't know. He's trying to cover all his bases. He's like an LGBTQ plus sympathizer, wears purple hair or whatever, long, and he looks prettier than some of the women on the council, but that's his thing, or her thing. I don't even know. You can't judge anymore, right? So, meanwhile, District 5 has actively in the past countered anything that the police have said, even if it doesn't make any sense. The only thing that I say that she seems to be on board with is what they refer to as the SAFE officers, SAFF. It's like San Antonio Fear-Free Environment. Just kind of call it SAFE for short. What these officers are basically, they're in charge of a section of a district, but over time, what has happened is while they started with a certain size of a district, that district grew, but the officers, instead of adding more officers, they ended up taking on more area and getting spread out even more. So you had maybe, I can't really estimate here, but let's just throw some fake numbers out there. Let's say an officer originally had to cover, like 2 officers had to cover 10 blocks. Well, the district grew to 40 blocks and they split up the 2 officers. So now each one of them is dealing with 20 blocks. So, yeah. And then if you're going to talk about in areas where there's higher crime, where there should be more of a local police presence, somebody that knows the area because they're constantly there. They're not a standard patrol officer that gets sent anywhere throughout the city. They would be pretty much primarily in one area only, and they have very set hours, usually during the day, and so during the evening they can, do whatever else they need to do. But at least she understands, District 5, Councilwoman Castillo, who's not in this article, understands that having more of those type of officers that know the residents and they kind of know the businesses and they get their job is to know the things that are going on in their area. Whereas a regular patrol officer might go from one thing to another that are totally unrelated, totally different parts of the area, and really doesn't really have a chance to really connect because they're kind of being pushed from one thing to another as quickly as possible because we don't have the amount of officers that it would take to even try to cover the amount of people that we have in the city. Here's some more basic facts. In the past few years, SAPD budget has been reduced 6% and falling. Easy to verify this information online. Police officers in Houston, for example, roughly 5.2 thousand police officers versus a population which they have, which is about 2.3 million people. So compared to SAPD, we have about 1,128 patrol officers out on the street of a total of 2,191 officers, which that would be anything within the police budget, desk related jobs, investigator, whatever it is, right? Of that, you have only 1,128 patrol positions, versus the population that we have of 1.74 million. That's about an 830,000 difference in population from Houston to San Antonio, with a difference of about 3,000 officers difference from Houston to San Antonio. So it's a pretty large gap in support, basically, here in San Antonio versus in Houston. There's about 1 officer to 1,000 citizens in San Antonio compared to other major cities, which average about 2 officers to every 1,000 citizens per capita, basically. So yeah, that kind of gives you an idea that we're really far behind. And you have to understand, San Antonio is one of the places where a lot of immigrants are sent from the border, even though we don't really have the capacity to hold them. There was an article earlier this year that talked about the mayor was like, yeah, we don't really, once I think it was Title 6 was ending or something like that. The mayor was like, yeah, we don't really have any plan. I'm not kidding. He literally said, we don't really have a plan for all, any overflow or anything like that. And the main organizations that were handling all of the illegals or all of the immigrants that were waiting to be processed or whatever it was mostly church-based. That, you would think that would be city-based, but we have a ton of nonprofits in this city that are just, it's almost like 10 new ones a day or something, because they want a bite of federal, state, county, city, whatever that money is out there. I'm not saying the churches are all that, but there are these churches that pop up, like a single building that'll have like 100 different nonprofits associated with them. It is almost just pure corruption in your face. And these places, what they do, their idea of support is we're going to go out there and hand out Cheetos and, microwave pizza and a can of soda. And then they'll do that in a neighborhood, and they'll have a bunch of like people that'll congregate there looking for that stuff. And those people will then cause havoc in the area because they don't really care. There's nothing at stake for them. There's no care for them to throw anything away properly. Why would they care? That should be up to the nonprofit that is giving the support to say, hey, it's, if you're going to be doing this, we'll collect the trash or whatever like that. They should be out there collecting the trash if they know that those people that are there to get the support of free food or whatever it is, they should then go out, because those you call them whatever you want. They have a ton of different terms: homeless, unhoused, people without borders. I don't know what you call them anymore. Yeah, what's the new woke term? But basically, they don't care. They'll trash a neighborhood. They'll shit in people's yards, in their back back street areas, where often, like for where I live, my back street is my only entrance and exit to my own property. So I care a lot about what goes on back there, who's hanging out back there, who's, trashing stuff. I actively police it myself, because it's just not something that the city or the police can really handle. If somebody, basically not policing that kind of stuff is what allows encampments to grow, because then people understand, oh, we can just come here and start hanging out because nobody cares, but that's another different story. Let's just, it comes up because it all ties in. So looking at all this officer involved shooting, you have less police, you have less active force out there proactively looking to curb crimes from happening. We're not talking about waiting until after the fact, which is currently what's going on. I know 7 drug houses in the area. There's a guy that lives on my own street that walks around with a pistol in hand. Now, where basically constitutional carry around here in Texas. We're basically, you don't have to have a license, but there's still laws against holding a pistol in your hand while walking down the street, and maybe occasionally aiming it down the street and mock shooting at things. This is not an exaggeration. This is stuff that I have video of, or walking out on your porch and tracking vehicles as they go by with a rifle or a shotgun, or pointing at houses and making like you're going to shoot them or like you're shooting them. Video that I have that I've given to SAPD, to the safe officer, that I've shown to the district council people, to various groups, neighborhood associations. Nobody gives a shit. I've talked to, let me tell you real quick here. One of the city, I forget what this guy's name is here. Assistant City Attorney Eric G. Burns. I've had the opportunity to be in a meeting where he heard about the issues going on my street with this specific person, among other things. And, you know, that was months ago. Nothing's happened. The guy just does what he wants. I mean, nobody really cares. Like I said, even with, I remember asking, like, even the DA is like, whatever happened to eyewitness testimony on these things, you know? Whatever happened? Why does everything need video? Number one, and even that's not enough. Even eyewitness testimony is not good enough. Like, we've had crimes happen on our street where more often than not, cops have come down and basically chastised us, the law-abiding citizens, as if we're doing something wrong. It's like, you know, So let's go back to this article, because I'm just way off. But I'm giving you an idea of this kind of stuff Texas is not immune to. People like to talk about Texas. I'm telling you what, Texas gets a much better rep than what happened. And most of it is because of the large cities run by not just Democrats, but progressives hiding under the label of being a Democrat, or like our mayor, Nuremberg. I don't know. I get it mixed up with like that whole Nazi thing, but running as an independent, even though everything he pretty much does is like progressive leftist and all about, like, you know, control over the citizens and stuff like that, yet actually doesn't really do anything for, you know, it's craziness. Plus we have that district attorney, Joe Gonzalez, who I've personally questioned, in a neighborhood meeting, association meeting, and brought up the experience of how it is to live with criminals essentially walking away. That's why he has the nickname of "Let Him Go Joe," because as this article is pointing out, these shootings, these officer-involved shootings, in a lot of the cases here, the people doing the shooting of officers were repeat offender felons with warrants that were out on bail. And Joe Gonzalez's, his retort to that in every instance was like, well, you know, we need all the evidence, and if we don't have all the evidence, or if people don't testify, then we can't convict. There's got to be a point where enough is enough. And that does happen. And it usually is the citizens that end up having to take care of that. Happened on my street not more than a couple of months ago, where one of these guys that is constantly roaming around the front of the street, the back of the street, hot, cold, raining, doesn't matter. He's a junkie. I'm not talking about homeless anymore. Now, he might be technically under the label of homeless because he doesn't necessarily appear to live in a home. He might have a home. I mean, I know one of the guys on the street here that has a home, lives with his father, but he wanders around all damn day, all damn night, hooks up with all the junkies, goes to try to sell to all the, I would say, the legitimate homeless people that are probably trying to get services. But you've got all these junkies that have come around, these low-level drug dealers that are usually addicts themselves, that they go around stealing stuff from people too. That's another damn problem. Trespassing, stealing, burning down stuff, making drugs, being lookouts, all that stuff. Now we know where a lot of this stuff is, but we turn it over to the cop. Nothing happens. Ain't nothing happened. So yeah, but now they're all of a sudden concerned because police officers are getting shot. Oh no. Yet when I have, let's say there's a guy three houses down from me threatened to shoot me, I call the cops, and when they say, well, we don't want to talk to him, we don't want to antagonize him. Okay, so he, in his mind, then knows he can get away with whatever he wants. Not bad. That's essentially what's going on, is criminals just not being prosecuted, getting away with whatever they want. Cops realizing that it's a revolving door. I've talked to a number of different cops. They'll tell us how they do drug busts, and the intake prosecutor at the time will say, this looks like a great report, but it wasn't a violent offense, so we're gonna, it doesn't matter how many drugs they had on them.